Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Appalachian Alpha. This is this lovely fellow over here. As you can see, we're going to rock in power armor, more specifically the T51B power armor with a jetpack. And the specialty about this build is it will live completely without any mutations, which is something you see quite rarely in the game. Simply because it's not like mutations have a big downside, and for the most part their positives outweigh the negatives quite significantly. Also, you can just use class freak and mitigate pretty much every negative you can get from the game. So why are we doing this? Well, this is more like a challenge build, so to speak. So there's no real benefit from not having any mutations. It's for the pure fun. And as for the gameplay, this character is going to be more of a tank build. So we're designed to dish out, well, decent damage, but mostly we're going to consume damage as much as possible. So we're pretty much unkillable. Like, what could be dangerous to us would be, for example, a sheep squatch imposter who has crazy DPS, but other than that I can't really think of anything that will kill this character. So let's get right into it. First thing we're going to do is I will show you some gameplay, and in the latter half of the video I will going to go over the build and the equipment. But the equipment will be pretty much, I can tell you now, it's a Vampire's explosive 50 cal machine gun and the T51B power armor suit with only a jetpack. So the jetpack is here just for convenience, as we're not going to have any mutations, as I said earlier. We won't have the marsupial jump, which is pretty much, well, that's the marsupial, that's the mutation that pretty much everyone will rock in the wasteland. You will barely see anyone who not has this mutation, simply because it makes traversing the land of Appalachia, which is quite mountainous, very much easier. So as you can see, this is our normal jump height, so that doesn't bring you anywhere. And as you can see now, the marsupial jump will be no problem for us because we have the jetpack. We're not designed to fly around in jetpack for long ranges or big heights. It's pretty much, as I said, simply to give us the ability that we would have through the marsupial jump. So we're just using small bursts, and as you can see from the gameplay now, we can stand pretty much in every threat. It's no problem at all. The only thing we have to worry about is some red away here and there, especially when we're going through nuke zones. But other than that, due to our Vampire's explosive, nocturnal baseball bat, well, that could have been better. Due to a combination of, first of all, the power armor, which is already providing us with a lot of damage reduction, combined with a pretty high endurance. So our endurance sits at 12, I think. We're going to have a look at that later. And some perks, so we're going to have a lot of HP, combined with a lot of damage reduction, a lot of damage resistance. And on top of that, we also have a vampire's weapon. With the explosive effect especially, this makes it even more potent in healing us. One thing I can tell for certain, you will probably never have to use any stimpack, so that's a pretty big positive about this character, especially if you use it as a secondary character or something, because you can easily farm stimpaks. You will always have excess stimpaks you can then transfer to other characters. So the good thing about this build is it's very easy. It's just a build where you can stop thinking for a time, can just traverse the land. There's pretty much nothing you have to worry about. You won't be able to solo Scorch Beast Queen or something, simply because the ammo consumption would be too high and you're probably lacking the DPS to successfully do it in 30 minutes. But other than that, scorch beasts are no problem. You don't have to care for ammo all that much because 50 cal machine gun ammo is quite easy to craft in masses. So I will show you now. We're starting with 10k and we're going to use up quite some ammo with this. But it's not like hard to come by. The biggest problem will be steel, but well, easiest thing to do would be to just run West Tech or pretty much any location that has armed enemies and use the scrapper perk afterwards to just scrap down all the weapons you can find, and you should have like 500 to 1000 steel in no time. Only thing other than that you may worry about will be fusion cores, which I personally never felt all that hard to come by. I've read quite sometimes online that people do have problems with maintaining their fusion cores, but you could slightly tweak the build to use something like power user, for example, but I don't think it's necessary. So as you can see here, we're starting off with 10 fusion cores. Thing is, flying around with a jetpack will consume quite a lot of your fusion core, but other than that we're not going to sprint all that much, or especially we're not going to use VETs a lot, so it should be quite manageable. As you can see here, by the way, our damage output, well, we're not exactly one-shotting enemies, but once we're getting the hits in, especially on low armored enemies like ghouls, we're doing quite a lot of damage. It's not a problem at all. Also, when they group us, it's not a problem, simply because we're healing so much HP from our Vampire's effect, because the explosive effect also triggers the Vampire's effect to work, that we can heal off pretty much any incoming damage, no matter how hard we're going to be surrounded. Especially here with ghouls, well, they're not exactly grouping up, which is kind of a shame, because where this build shines is when you're going to face against bigger groups. So as you can see here, you can just spray down your bullets everywhere. You don't have to worry about aiming as much as I do. It's just, it feels a bit better with the 50 cal, to be honest. Not sure why we are so over encumbered, by the way. Quick check. Oh yeah, it's not that much. As you could see here, we don't have to worry all that much. One quick burst from our 50 cal and we're back to max health in no time. I felt like I probably, well, I could drop these plasma cores and we're done. So I'm not going to show off that much variety of enemies. I decided to go for the ghouls here, simply because that's where the build shines, and wanted to show you super mutants in the beginning of the video. I always want to show super mutants for the simple reason that these are probably, at least to some degree, the hardest enemies you're going to face on a daily basis. I guess we could take a turn down there where there is a fissure site and take down a scorch beast in the end. But that's about it. Robots could be potentially something that we could show off, simply because robots have their specialty is that they have quite a high damage output, especially these Gutsies with the ballistic ammo. But trust me when I say, unless there are 5 or 6 around you that constantly fire at you and you're stuck in a reload animation or something, even those won't out damage you. It's no problem at all. As you can see here, we're at quite a cakewalk. One noticeable downside with this build, as I said earlier, it doesn't have the biggest DPS when it comes to bigger enemies like Sheep Squatch or especially the Queen, but you're essentially just a heavy gunner, so there are good options to in terms of weapons where you could shine still at a Scorch Beast event. Get your hands on a Zealot's Ultrasight Gatling Laser or a Furious heavy weapon. Pretty much anything will go, especially except for maybe harpoon guns or something. But every fast-firing heavy weapon with the Furious effect or anti-armor effect should do the trick when you're facing against those enemies. The Vampire's explosive 50 cal should just be the centerpiece of this build. As you can see here, sometimes at range it works quite well, but I have the feeling that these were low level enemies. But still, this is about the range where effectiveness starts to really go down. But that's not a problem. You're built to withstand damage, so you can really go all in. So I think I decided I'm going for the turn to see if we can find a Scorch Beast. Sorry by the way that it's night, but I just started the server and didn't want to wait for like, what is it, 8 in-game hours or something. Yeah, maybe by the end of the video we will have daylight again. We should have, at least. As for the power armor we're wearing, well, I will show it off when there's daylight again. It's the Atomic Shop skin that you unlock through the legendary run. Is it called Atomic Onslaught? I'm not sure. Anyways, it looks quite nice. It has this. Ah, yeah. It has this golden color on it with some red inside. It looks really good. Anything goes with this character. This guy would also be suited pretty well for a Brotherhood of Steel run, especially lore-wise, as the Brotherhood of Steel is known for hating mutations. Of course, this is something. This is some kind of an attitude that is prominent with later known chapters of the faction, like we know from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, where the Brotherhood really hates all kind of abominations and mutations. So this is something that in a lot of playthroughs would probably be kind of a hindrance in Fallout 76, but it's quite unclear at what state the Brotherhood of Steel is this early after the war. So there's a big possibility that the Brotherhood of Steel isn't that fanatic when it comes to mutations and stuff this early on in the timeline. So usually you can just you can just use mutations, no problem. But for those hardcore gamers, hardcore lore fans on you, really there's nothing you really miss in terms of mutations when it comes to this build. As I said, Marsupial is always a nice pick, but that's mitigated by the use of the jetpack. And other than that, well, the only mutations I would use on this character would be Speed Demon, Marsupial, and I think that's probably about it. Adrenal Reaction doesn't really have any use on this character, for the simple reason that we're constantly at max health. So maybe when we're caught while reloading we will lose some 20% health or something, but we will basically never be in a threshold where Adrenal Reaction would help us out. And we're kind of designed to be that slow moving tank, so we don't have to be very maneuverable. We don't need a lot of agility because we don't use VATS. So the only thing where agility would help us out would be with longer flights with our jetpack, but that's simply not necessary in my opinion. Carry weight, well, we have no other mod on our character than the jetpack, so with calibrated shocks we would even have 100 more carry weight, so there's a lot you can do in that regard. And it's kind of a fresh pace to just play this slow moving character. You really feel more tanky by moving slower. It sounds a bit stupid, but it can be a fresh pace, especially these low jumps make the whole world a bit more immersive. It's really fascinating how much you get used to the marsupial jump. Like I can remember when I started the game and got the mutation for the first time, it felt so fresh and crazy to be able to do that. But after a time, like, this is a mutation every character has. Also Speed Demon, I think I have on probably every other character, and you really get used to this fast movement. And the slow walking pace really feels like it gives a bit of retro vibes, kind of like in older Fallout games, where you well, I won't kill it. Where you really were traversing the land quite a lot slower than you do here. As I said earlier, though, feel free to use mutations. We do have starter genes equipped, which wouldn't be necessary. I just left it in for the case that some of you might want to use it with the build with mutations. And it prevents us from being mutated. And yeah, as I said earlier, it would be a perfect fit for a Brotherhood themed character. Heavy weapons and power armor are a staple of the faction, so that would go hand in hand with the build. And also, as I said, the lack of mutations would be a fit too. Another big downside of the character is we're not using gunsmith, and well, the condition bar of the 50 cal is quite solid, I can say that, but as we're using explosive rounds, that makes our gun degrade like twice as fast. So it's quite heavy on the ammo consumption, on the condition consumption, I can say that much. So you will really, especially if you go for bigger mobs, you will have to repair your weapon every now and then. By the way, what we're doing here, we're trying to just spray some bullets at the Scorch Beast, simple to cripple its limbs. We do have one gun army equipped, which has a chance to cripple limbs. And we're not dealing damage now. The Scorch Beast is out of range, and also we're just getting a hit in every now and then. This is really just to cripple its limbs, forcing it to land. But once it's down on the ground and in range, we can really tear down its health bar relatively quickly. I feel like the Scorch Beast has a problem too. Ah yeah, there we go. So we're going all in on the head. There was the regeneration. Okay, we have to reload. And now we should be able to finish it off. As you can see here, this wasn't exactly a problem. Like, sure, it wasn't as fast as it could be with another build, but to be honest, if it's going to take 2 minutes to take down an enemy or 1 minute, doesn't really matter all that much. And it's still effective enough so you can really go and hunt down Scorched Beast. So this was pretty much it in terms of gameplay. That's pretty much all I wanted to show off. And now for the next part, this will be a bit shorter than usually, simply because normally I do show off mutations, equipment, and the perks. And two of these parts are basically irrelevant here because, well, in terms of mutations, that's it. We don't have any, as you can see here. So this was quite fast part. And in terms of equipment, we do have this Vampire's Explosive 50 cal. I do have Murph grenades equipped and occasionally use plasma grenades simply because we do have Demolitions Expert, so they can be fun when you have groups of enemies. And as for the armor, as I said earlier, we have a full set of T51B power armor. Only modification we do have is a jetpack on the torso. Rest is unmodified except for the Atomic Onslaught paint. So only thing left is the perks. As you can see here, we have strength maxed out. This isn't necessary. You could go down to, well, 12 points of strength with no problem and invest them somewhere else. I just felt like they weren't needed anywhere. So we have rank 2 of bare arms, which makes our guns way less. So next rank would be 90% less, which is really significant, but 60% less should be enough. You can feel free to combine weight perks here as you wish, so maybe you could really use a whole armory of heavy weapons. That's quite easy to do. The essential part here are the heavy gunner perks, all maxed out. I do have rank 2 of lock and load. You could go faster depending on if you use mutations or not. If you use speed demon, you could go to reload even faster, but I felt like lock and load 2 is enough here. You don't really have all that much time problems when it comes to reloading, simply because in the time you're reloading, enemies won't kill you off, and as soon as you start firing again, your health will go up again in no time, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And last rank here is Bandolier. The ammo is quite light, so you could probably go without it. I just used it because on this character I do have a lot of ammo, which I don't want to drop. So I used it, but what you could do, you could go for bare arms rank 3 and use 1 rank of pack red or blocker or anything like that. On perception, well, we do need nothing here basically, so we went for fire in the hole simply because, as I said earlier, we're going to use grenades from time to time, and having this throwing arc here, as you can see, this can be quite useful, especially if you're going in on, well, if there are 3 to 4 ghouls grouped or super mutants. This can really be fun and makes it easier to hit your target. On to endurance. We do have rank 12 endurance here. I went for Life Giver simply to max out our HP as much as possible. Cola Nut. This is just a convenient perk, which I like to use a lot. If you run out of AP, you can use Nuka-Cola to bring back your AP. It's a good healing item, which you don't really need here, but it's basically, its best benefit here is you can use 1 Nuka-Cola and fill quite a lot of your thirst bar. So similar to Good Doggy here. With Good Doggy and Cola Nut, you don't have to worry all that much about your thirst and hunger. Simply use a Nuka-Cola and canned dog food, and you're basically set all the time. Fireproof, we don't really need it as we're tanky enough, but especially the best part of it is that Scorched Beasts don't do any damage to us at all, so this is comes in quite handy. Also, our explosions from our own weapon don't do us any harm. Last year, Rejuvenated. This is a free pick. Use whatever you want. If you feel like you will need Chem Fiend or something like that, or Dromedary, that would be good picks too. I just used this one because with Cola Nut and Good Doggy it's easy to stay well hydrated and well fed, and therefore rejuvenated. The benefits we pretty much always have. I can show you the benefits right here. Well, we're neither well fed nor canned dog food, and we're basically well fed. And here Nuka-Cola, and we're back to well hydrated too. Well fed, max HP plus 50, another boost to our hit points. Disease resistance, always nice. And same for well hydrated, extra AP regen, which is cool. And same for damage, disease resistance. So these are just convenient. Back to the perks. As for charisma, I went for rank 3 of Lone Wanderer, as I already had it equipped. You can easily go for rank 4, or and yes, I had Tenderizer here. Swap out Tenderizer and go for rank 4 Lone Wanderer. It's not a bad idea. Obviously you can make this character, you can use this character in a team. Maybe Inspirational would be a good fit, and as you're not having any mutations, this would be a good time for squad maneuvers. Because with rank 2, if I remember that correctly, you run 20% faster, which is pretty much as if you would use Speed Demon. So usually you don't use squad maneuvers simply because Speed Demon maxes out your movement speed on its own. But as we're going for a purist build without any mutations, squad maneuvers, yeah, you could use it here if you're going to go for a team. Tenderizer is just another 5% damage pretty much, because we're having a fast firing weapon and every consecutive attack after the first one does 5% more damage. With our low damage per shot weapon, this is pretty much all the time just 5% damage buff. Stabilized, pretty much one of the most important perks on this character. More armor penetration and accuracy with your heavy weapons whilst in power armor. We're always going to be in power armor, so this benefit will be for us all the time. And you can really feel the... I mean, if you're using a bloody heavy weapon or a junkies one, you don't really need stabilized, simply because your damage per shot is high enough, so you don't need the armor penetration all that much. But if you're using a heavy weapon that isn't boosted damage wise, except for our explosive effect here, but that doesn't count for that, the armor penetration really helps us. Demolitions Expert, it's usually not worth it to really use Demolitions Expert in order to boost the explosive effect of your weapons, because it's not that your weapon does 60% more damage. It's in all reality just more like 12% or something. It only affects the 20% damage you get from the explosive effect in the first place. But on this character, as I said, we're using some grenades here and there. We do have the players, we want some intelligence, so it's noticeable enough. And as we're not having any other damage boosting perks or effects for our heavy weapon here, the 50 cal, the extra damage from the Demo Expert perk card, really you can really feel it, and it's worth it. Onto agility, it's pretty straightforward. Action Boy, never a bad fit. 2 ranks of Marathoner. We don't have all that much agility. We do have a lot of endurance, so we can sprint a lot anyways, but this really helps. You can sprint a whole lot with this character. And Through Hiker, well, what should I say? It's a carry weight perk, so feel free to use whatever you like here. Adrenaline would be a good fit, for example. But I went for Through Hiker here simply because I do tend to have a lot of food with me and drinks, so yeah, I choose this one. Onto Luck, Bloody Mess for 15% extra damage. One Gun Army, this one is quite effective on our character here. What it does, 12% chance to stagger and 12% chance to cripple a limb. as we're having 150 bullets in our magazine and spraying them all around. This procs quite often and can be useful, especially if you're going for boss type enemies. If you go for a sheep squatch, for example,